Righty then. Oh, gentlemen.
Stretch it out.
Gent. Oh, you sound like you're hurting yourself there, man.
Stretch it out.
Careful,
Stretch it
careful. Yes. You ain't too sure. You all right there?
Aging, getting older.
It's just aging thing is something else. Yeah, something
out.
else.
Hard.
Yeah. Hey guys, how are we doing? Welcome to another edition of the Living Room. Thank you so much for joining us here on this Sunday afternoon or evening or morning, depending where you are in the world. If this is your first time, you're here on the We Global platform. This is me, Andre, with my good friends, Philip and Mark, and you are in the Living Room, the show where we just have good old Caribbean conversation. That's what we do. That's what we love to do. So hit share, invite your friends, tag 10 people, whoever, just come into this conversation. We deal with serious things, but we also like to have a laugh as well. So don't worry about it. We're going to have a good time. Let's go. How are we doing, guys?
Yeah, doing all right. Doing okay.
Good, man.
You sure?
Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. What y'all getting up to this week, man? What going on?
What happened to you, Mark? You doing anything special out of the
Special?
ordinary?
Me? Nah, man. I try to keep my head clean and just stay quiet, you know?
Okay.
But, you know, a
You sound like
holiday
he
would
was
be
in
great.
trouble. You sound like he was in trouble. So, you all right there, man? You sound like he hedging there. So,
Well, I know this film like, you, Mark, what happened?
Yeah, because I ain't got the news.
Like
He sound like he got something to tell me. He got
I ain't got nothing.
You hear something?
I just have nothing extra to
Philip,
offer.
tell me what you hear, man. The boy saying here will be just me.
I want
Tell
to
me.
know. Will you hear?
I ain't hear nothing. I hear from y'all
Yeah.
for the week. I ain't hear nothing but y'all.
Yeah. You're hearing nothing at all.
I ain't seen nothing. I ain't seen the pictures of you in the office. Nothing.
Man,
None at all.
it was-
Okay.
But you know, it's not very weak sometimes. Maybe it's
Hey,
just like,
Venus.
man,
Yeah.
the week just flying, man. I just too busy.
Yeah.
Too many things to do. But yeah, man.
What y'all do with your evenings after work, even if you're working from home?
Well, a lot
Oh,
of
thank
mine
you
now,
there, Vonette. Thank you.
a lot of mine now being taken over with, you know, the kids and running back into the activities that they used to do pre the pandemic. So
Okay.
most of those have restarted. So a lot of evenings taken up with that at the moment. Yeah, man. Were you writing
Yeah,
something?
Eunice?
I'm not doing a lot of writing at the moment, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I need to get back into it. I have a lot of ideas. I'm doing a lot with the dad book.
Yeah.
Last week.
Mine came this week. Yeah.
Oh, you got it. Oh,
Yeah, man.
great. Good.
Yeah,
I'm
he's
not
about
reading yet though.
Been on the radio twice
Mm-hmm.
this week, doing some stuff with that, and just doing a few things to keep that well promoted. But they're good stories. Loads of good stories.
My head clean, shiny.
Like dog stores. Wow.
Manchester Field, why do you?
I don't know.
Was so kind to you, sweet, you know. Jeez.
Yeah, no, I
Come
agree.
Come on, man.
But look, things could be worse. I know we were thinking if we should bring this up, but we had quiet weeks compared to our health minister here in the UK, innit?
Ooh. I don't. Well, you want to set this up for our Caribbean audience? I mean, I'm sure they've seen it. I don't know if it's of interest.
Well, it's interesting whether of interest
is
or not.
interesting.
Is
There's
it?
Yeah.
There's a lot
The man
of
who's been telling us all to, you know, socially distance ourselves has found himself a little bit of a cropper with his own
tight-
rules, eh? And a tight
Yeah.
squeeze.
In a tight squeeze with his assistant in the office.
Wow.
They do you bad, boy. They do you real bad.
Man, I convinced that this was a thing monger, man. This was a
It's a
setup.
setup.
Well, not a
It's a
setup.
setup.
Because
Man.
nobody tell he to do what he do. But
Yeah.
clearly somebody knew what was happening and decided, you know what?
It's time
See
for
you?
him to go.
Let me
See
get
you?
this, man.
Yeah.
Let me
I
get
had this here waiting for you.
I got a feeling so. And I sometimes wonder if it's the guy Dominic Cummings, but I ain't sure. Because it could be anybody. Because Matt Hancock had a way. Guys, this is the Minister of Health here, right? He, as Mark was saying, he was charged, obviously, with getting us through the pandemic. One person already got fired for breaking social distancing rule by leaving house to go visit another. And which he actually said this should be fired, right? So he got caught in the office having an affair with his assistant, for which case you should be social distancing in the office.
He's the
right?
first man I know attempting to do a COVID test with his tongue.
Oh my God.
Sorry.
Hey, I can see something coming flying anything there now hit you long so you head so they tell you behave.
Sorry about that.
But where's the lie? I don't think there's a lie there. The man here they have the Delta variant, so he's sharing injection.
Let me see
Oh,
if it
God.
here. Let me see if it down here.
It was the most hilarious. Well, to be fair, look, it was hilarious to us watching, but this man had to go home and explain some things to his wife, and she had to go do the same thing to her husband as well. And both of them have 3 kids each, I believe.
3 young children.
So,
yeah,
so
that's hard.
Terrible.
exactly is a thing. So whatever week you had, I don't think anybody had a week in comparison to him about the news, and then Lord knows what home conversation was like thereafter. Right?
You think, last week we were talking about men and the needs of men and so on. It just reiterates that point that the time you spend with someone is meaningful, right? If you spend a lot of time with your partner, your business partner, and so on, your relationship becomes closer. If you go through trials and hardship and issues and so on, your relationship is going to become stronger. Right?
Yeah, I agree. And there might be a conversation there for us to pick up at some point. But Mr. Hancock's actions really show us how careful we have to be. We've got to be really, really
guard your
really,
relationships.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say. I was wondering. I was saying what a remark with this. I was like, I said, well, make sure you do it when no cameras watching. I was wondering where you going with that, Mark. I was like, how cheerful you got to be.
I'm just saying. Okay.
Yeah.
But that was the biggest story here in the UK. But of course, Barbados is on the green list now. So anybody thinking of
Barbados
going
and Antigua as well are on
Antigua
the green
made
list.
it.
Yeah, Antigua made it. Oh Lord, I can see all the puns coming in there now.
Or the hair. Could be.
Well, look what we open that here now.
Don't get cat. See, I ain't the only boy that thought that's where you was going, Mark.
When the dangerous, the real dangerous boy.
No, it's interesting to see that the opening up though I said opening up. I used to say Barbados and Antigua getting put on the green list. I guess the question for Barbados and Antigua is the UK on the red list? Because exactly. So it's a wonder of what is going on in the UK, because I don't think the UK out of the woods is yet, although July 17th or 18th, whichever date.
19th.
July 19th is our date that all lockdown restrictions are removed and we
Freedom
begin
Day.
to, as they say, live with this thing. But I think the Delta variant might have a little something to say about that. The case is going up, although it seems like the vaccine working because the hospitalizations aren't rising at the same rate. And the deaths are still remaining very low as well. So it would appear vaccination is working.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of it is going to hinge on DD.
Sorry, guys.
Green list.
Go for this here quick.
Green list.
Green list.
Yeah, I think a lot of it hinges on the effectiveness of the vaccine. If the vaccine is looking as though it's effective, including against the Delta variant, then I think there'll be a lot more flexibility from governments to say, well, let's start to open up the gates a little bit and engage.
Well, we will see.
Yeah,
I think I know how much we care being dependent on the tourism and stuff, but we just got to be careful with this one.
I think so.
I think so.
We just got to be careful.
In fact, let's change gear here so I can start laughing.
Yes, I think so. Let's go on our girl.
Yeah.
This was a big announcement this week, huh? Veronica Campbell-Brown is no longer going to be in the athletics world.
Wow.
And looking back on her, she's retired,
Mm-hmm.
and looking back on her record, worthy of being called a Caribbean champion, man.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
she is
Worthy.
amazing, amazing. The career is just stellar. I mean, to
Mm-hmm.
do what she's done and for the longevity that she's had on the track as well, just
Yeah,
amazing. Every single West Indian should just, give her a round of applause for everything that she's
absolutely,
achieved. I know she's
absolutely.
Jamaican claimer. Yes, of course, we know that. But we in the region, we claim you too,
Yeah,
Veronica. Well
Yeah.
done and congratulations on everything that you've achieved.
absolutely.
Some people saying they
Worthy,
think it's too
worthy
early.
champion. Too
No,
early.
no.
Oh wow.
Well, she would know, right? She would know if she could have made Tokyo and if it was gonna make any sense. So, I think she knows best. I would think so. But look, on another thing as well, on a slightly different note, we also,
Yes.
wanted to give our condolences to the family and the people of Winsford Divine and the Trinidadians as well. We know what a stellar West Indian he has been over the years, and his craftsmanship and his penmanship as well is known right across the region in some of the most pungent and popular calypsos right across the region as well. So we just want to say, rest in peace to him and condolences to his family and to the people and the nation of Trinidad and Tobago as
Yeah.
well. And it's interesting this one because we recently had, when we had our show Living Legends in Living Room, we recently had Barbadian Mighty Gabby in as well. And a legend when another legend has something to say about them. And just listen to what the Mighty Gabby had to say about Winsford.
I don't want to veer too much, but understand this. I let it go down history. The best calypso writer in the world is in Trinidad, a Trinidadian, and his name is Winsford Devine, whom we call Joker. I have studied his work. I've studied Merchant. I've studied all the writers. Devine is the best calypso writer in the world. I say that because of this.
Wow.
When I examine his lyrics, his melody, the way his chord structure and all that, he is just brilliant. Merchant is there too, but Devine, all them songs you like by Baron, Devine wrote. I want somebody to hug up, somebody to love up, right? I mean, any that you could think of, Devine. In fact, it's easier to call the singers in Trinidad that Devine did not write for than to call the ones he wrote for. Because this is not a joke. About 6 or so years ago, I went to Trinidad. I went to look for Devine. And we were talking, and so I feeling proud now. I told him, boy, I got 1,200 songs. That time I was up to 1,200 songs. I said, man, I wrote 1,200. He said, Gabby, that's good, man, but I read over 6,000. I said, how much? He said, 6,000? Yeah, man. I get my son to think it, and when he done tally up, man, it's over 6,000. So I said, what the ramba? Where you find time to write 6,000? People asking me where I find time to write 1,200 songs. Where he find time to write 6,000?
6,000.
Right? And I mean no
Wow.
joke songs, I mean songs like Capitalism Gone Mad and brilliant songs. Fill up my dear, last night I thought was you in here. Where did you go? Right? He wrote for Sparrow. He wrote for Sugar Aloes. He wrote for Francine. He wrote for Denise Plemmer. He wrote for Marshall Montana. Marshall first song about they say I'm too young to
Too young for
soca.
soca.
Oh yeah, yeah, to make it
Right?
joke.
Tune.
Devine. I bow to Devine as a writer because I mean in terms of if you put my poetry and my songs together, you're looking at over 3,000, right? But this man as a writer, I get lucky in that I was able to sing mine at a high standard, if I may say so myself, and perform it, right? Not just sing but perform. But as a writer, exclusive, we ain't got nothing in the world better than that man. Because when I examine his stuff, I mean, I said in the world, because when you look at his work, and he says, You got to be a millionaire or some kind of petty bourgeoisie anytime you're living here in this country. So many bills to pay. There is no conceivable way to save for a rainy day in this country. I mean, how you gonna get
Craft
past
that.
that? How you gonna surpass that? Right?
Wow.
And that's the standard that he brought to us all the time.
Wow.
And that's the tribute from Mighty Gabby on our show right here to the great Rinsford Devine. So rest in peace, sir.
Absolutely. You know, I always knew Trinidad was a special place, but I'm going to tell you something. Since we started being in the living room, the journey of Trinidad as a place and the richness of its culture and its creativity is something that has really sat well in my spirit over the last couple of months that we've been in this show, over the last year or so. What a place, man. What a place.
I agree. And you know, the thing is why the Devine one kind of hits home for us guys is because after that interview with Mighty Gabby, we actually put Winsford Devine on our list to honor as a legend right here in the living room.
Yeah.
But obviously it didn't happen.
Yep.
But for us, it showed us the importance of what as West Indians we need to do for ourselves in cataloging these, our people, our legends and what we do. Because, you know, we had him on it and it didn't happen, you know, but thankfully we had Gabby's tribute that we could play and we could show everybody. So I think that's why it's important that, you know, that we as West Indians, we catalog ourselves for ourselves and by ourselves.
Absolutely.
Really important that we do that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm not lying. And it's it's in Trinidad that we're gonna hold fast with today, because what a special people.
Indeed.
What a special people.
Indeed. You know, and it's a good segue to what we're gonna deal with today, Carl. You know.
Yeah, because Trinidad have been in the news this week as well, huh? Big controversy, outrage, and rightfully so, about something that means and has deep rooted meaning for the people. But it did raise the question for us about, but how do we value these things first of all? You know, we've got a right to get outraged about anything as Caribbean people that we feel is, you know, coming and taking and monopolizing or exploiting what is deep-seated in us. But we also have to ask ourselves, how much value are we putting on it? And it kind of led us down this road of, we need a conversation around valuing and protecting. And, you know, there's probably no greater place in the Caribbean, and this might sound a bit outrageous, to have that conversation than in Trinidad.
I agree. I agree. Look, I think everyone across the region have the unique thing that is them. But as a collective, our culture is relatively similar, but slightly different in all the different territories. And we need to really honor it, and we need to protect it, whatever protect means. You know, I'm not necessarily meaning legalistic stuff, but we need to protect it at all times, in all cases. And this issue in Trinidad, it really struck a chord with me just listening. And if anyone doesn't know, I'm sure most people have heard about it, but no. It was the issue with Michael B. Jordan, aka Killmonger, in Black Panther, and his, what's the phrase I want to say? His involvement in Juve rum and the whole trademarking issue and stuff going around that. And then the response from Trinidadians, and then the response from him and his team as well. But it really forced us to have a wider conversation around culture in the region. How do we protect it? Are we recognizing its value? Because others are, clearly. Or do we recognize it? And, you know, the creative industries, can we do more to protect what's coming out and what's being birthed from our creative industries right across the region? And that's why we having today's conversation. So today we got some amazing people from Trinidad. We got Dion, Rebecca, and we have Omari. Omari was with us before, and we're going to cover a wide range of stuff. We're going to let them introduce themselves in the areas that they're going to cover. But as usual, you guys know how we do it. We have a conversation. We don't do interviews. Tag 10 people, bring them into this conversation, hit share, because I want as many people across the region to be part of this, because I think it's going to be an interesting conversation today. So let's bring the guys in.
Yep.
Hey. Hello.
Welcome back and welcome for the first time. Welcome.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hey guys.
Hi.
Hi guys.
Hello.
What was the line? Is this your king?
Hello to everyone watching us online. It's an honor. Thank you
Indeed.
so much for having us on, Mark and Philip, and thank you guys so much, Andre.
You're welcome, man. You're welcome. It's great to see you. It's great to see you also, Dion. Welcome. And listen, we've got a lot to cover.
Wait. A question come out here from Avril. So let me deal with that then. Why we say Trinidad, not Trinidad Tobago? Avril, I must admit to you, this is something that I've been trying to correct in myself
Yes.
of saying the full thing. So when you hear me say it, it's not that I'm dismissing one and only calling the other. It is actually something I'm training myself to make sure I say more and more Trinidad and Tobago. So it's not a slight, but it just happens sometimes. But we know it's Trinidad and Tobago. Just thought let me deal with that.
Yeah, and Avril, you're right. You're right to point it out because sometimes we can loosely do those things and carry on. You're right. Trinidad and Tobago and TNT. We need to get it in our psyche and speak it properly. So thank you so much for the correction. Appreciate that.
Indeed.
So look, we've got a lot to cover, but I'm going to start with one of the things that's really quite important and concerning for us at the moment, Omari, and it's around the lockdown and how are you and your family doing during this COVID season?
Well, I would tell you that we don't have a choice but to be okay. It's challenging, and it's more challenging for some than others. My family, we are faring well. Personally, we are okay, but I am not. I'm not blind to what I'm seeing. Otherwise, as well, some people. One of the things with Trinidad, and I suppose some of the other Caribbean islands, is that the largest possibly employer might be the government, right, in the civil service and all the various. And so, regardless of how much lockdown you have, a certain sector would be receiving the salary going forward. But there's also a large portion of people who are in the private sector, food industry, and they would be entertainment, like myself, and they would be less than would be in less than ideal situations right now. So, so there's almost two worlds happening. Some people who are pretty, okay, other than the mental stress of it, but then there's some people who are really, have to look and worry about where the next dollar coming from and what is going to happen. So you have to almost have a balance. If you are in the first section where you kind of, okay, your salary has been running, it hasn't been interrupted, you kind of have to be cognizant of the people who have not had it so good. So it's about recognizing, essentially, we have to be our brother's keeper, essentially,
And Rebecca, what about yourself? How are you doing?
Good, I'm doing okay. I agree with what he said. So just to give you an insight, so you would not see it on social media because my family, we don't post it up on social media because the demand for food is a real deal. So what my family, we have a ministry for a few years now, and since COVID, the demand has been great. So from May to June, in 1 month, we were able to provide 75 large grocery hampers with toiletries. And then this Thursday gone, we did 40 more large hampers. Everyone sweating, my sisters, my mom, my dad, and I. And then yesterday on our so-called day off, when my mom went to the grocery, she noticed 2 ladies and a baby, and they were picking up small items and watching a list, and you could tell they couldn't pick up everything. So mommy just threw them in the car and brought them home, and we packed whatever we had on the shelf. And that is what I messaged a few people and I sent pictures to a small group of people that I know to encourage them. I said, do not post these up. But this is something that my family, we personally do in our home, where we help over the years, and especially for COVID. I said, I'm encouraging you all with these pictures to let you know, you cannot say you cannot help. Do not say you cannot help. I said, and I'll be a little biblical. God really says when there's a drought, it is the perfect time to sow. And I can tell you our testimony for me. I have done every crazy job out of the hats as an event person. I have no pride and no shame because when bills need to pay and you have to survive, you do whatever it takes. But I have seen where God has provided for me and my family because we were helping to provide for other people. We took what we have to bless other people. So it is up to everyone. Everyone needs to put a hand and share what they have, food wise, you know. Yeah.
Brilliant. And those seeds you're planting, Rebecca, are you seeing others responding and also setting up their own sort of circles of sharing and so on as well?
Yes. So what talking about? Like our ministry and the food. Well, friends and family give us money, and then we go to the wholesalers and we buy everything from like the big wholesale places like Price Mart. Then we do have Happy Food Store donated some pastas and some canned stuff. So we do have people that sponsor food and we collect it and we pack it out. So our garage has turned into a little mini supermarket every day. And as the pantry gets a little empty, I see my sister in the back laying her hands and she prays the Lord. So my phone, her phone is the one number. And guys, her phone goes off all day, all night from people all over Trinidad.
People
just
in
calling
need.
her for groceries for the need.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Wow.
Incredible.
Yeah.
No, it is. And Dion, just to bring you into,
Welcome
and
back.
see you having welcome back. Yes, you're having a few issues there. How have you and your family been coping during this COVID season?
I think actually, well, my husband and I think we were practicing for COVID for some time. We tend to be, a little bit introverted and keep to ourselves. So, not really interacting with too many people was not too challenging. Thankfully, my consultancy practice and the two state boards that I serve on, they were also prepared to operate remotely. So work didn't really stop, slow down yet, but thankfully not stop. And, I have to chime in, as Rebecca was saying, God has provided. Thankfully, I live in a place where we are surrounded by fruit trees. So even if, funds were a little bit low, there's food right there. Breadfruit, green pig, pig,
I made mango ice cream last night from scratch. Mango and banana ice cream.
Wow.
With powder milk. You get creative.
All right.
Creative with what you have in your yard.
Nice.
So things have not been terrible. And actually within within that season is when I was actually invited to start lecturing at UWI for the Arts and Cultural Enterprise Management course where I do business strategies and started a law seminar. So it was actually quite a fruitful, I would say, season for me.
Okay.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. That's good to hear.
That course is exclusive to St. Augustine, or is that offered across the Caribbean?
You can join in from wherever you are. Again, that's another benefit of this particular time. So it has now been that's actually from the department I am in. So we are enrolling now. So if you are interested, you could always either shoot me a message or go to DCFA, which is the Department for Creative and Festival Arts. Go to any one of their pages and sign up. It's a really, really interesting and beneficial course for anybody who wants to be to even tackle some of the things that we're going to tackle today. Cultural enterprise management.
It's interesting this season, because even us doing this has made me so much more connected and aware of our culture. And because of this season, actually, has made that even more accessible in terms of courses like this, because so much is now online, and I didn't have to be physically at St. Augustine or something to do the course. So you're right there. So I think anybody out there, if you want to sign up to some of this stuff, you should do and look into it.
Check it out.
For sure, I'm very, very interested now. I'm going to take advantage of that too going forward.
Yeah, we'll get some details and get that up on the page so people can link through, actually, because that's quite an important step for everybody to take.
Yeah.
I think so. So if we get to this thing, I guess that's what everybody here for too, actually. So we can start talking. Over the last week, or is it a week? No, a week and a half, or whatever it was now for the last week. This whole issue regarding Juve rum has come up, and
I go and get some cold water because this place gonna get hot inside this house.
Oh,
No, really, I'm gonna get some water.
that's all right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Right.
You know, and obviously we saw the uproar in Trinidad and what's not. But for us, it sparked an even wider conversation. But before we get to the wider conversation, let me deal or get a bit of understanding. Dion, can you help us out there? I know there's a legal aspect to stuff that's been happening, but we're gonna move that forward as well. But help us out on what some of the issues were as people saw it, or what was actually happening. Some context.
I think initially, to put it in a Trinbagonian context, there was some umbrage taken in some quarters, because it was not, this was not the case across all lines, but there was some umbrage taken to the commercial enterprise of a rum being trademarked Juve being part of our cultural history and also part of our carnival festival. For some, those who were kind of hurt by the situation, Juve holds a spiritual significance, right? Tricanal, popular rhapsody, would describe Juve as a living ritual. Yeah, and recently deceased Tony Hall basically would express Juve as a way of being, and every day, basically, with the rising of the sun would have been a Juve for him. And he had his own rituals that he would do every morning in relation to that. So for that corner, it was you're interfering with something that is sacred to us.
Yeah.
In other corners, it was you're interfering with, you're trespassing almost on our culture, on our cultural assets, on our cultural personality, and doing so for commercial benefits without any access or agreement for access to us or for sharing with us, while you're borrowing very heavily from what we believe is ours. In another quarter, it was this is an opportunity for Trinidad and Tobago to be put on the map, to be marketed by an international celebrity, yes, residing in the US, based there, yes, but given the success of the Black Panther movie, he is almost like a worldwide known person.
He was Forbes sexiest man, isn't it? For some time ago, yeah.
So,
Not that I follow these things, just to say. I
can't believe they passed me over again. But
I was now about to say to them, it looked like a twin to Michael.
We were just checking to see if you were on the list for Mary.
But Dion, so the cultural and the emotional and stuff aside, from a technical perspective, was he wrong? Could he not have done it? Or let me say he, because he was the face of it, but obviously there was a team of people. So don't let me just put everything on him, even though he was the face.
Right.
So from a technical perspective, was there a technical issue? Could it have been trademarked in that way as well? Did he do anything wrong? Did the team do anything wrong, really?
Well, the registration of trademarks is very formal, right? There are technicalities, etc., that you have to and criteria that you have to satisfy. So the fact that he was basically at the let's say penultimate step for trademark registration means that according to the U.S. Patent Office, there was no challenge with the fact that he was with what he was trademarking. And in fact, there are live and dead trademarks in other parts of the world using the word Juve for different things, right? So it's not that he could not have done it. And I think this is what caused those of us who feel connected to Juve as a sacred ritual or as something deep rooted in our culture. This is the thing that brought about some fear. You know, in the sense that, oh my gosh, is this the patenting of pan happening all over again? Are we poised to lose yet another one of our cultural assets because we have not acted in the way that we probably should?
Right. But just to draw the line, legally, he didn't do
There was
it.
nothing wrong.
The team did nothing
No,
wrong.
there was nothing wrong. I mean, the fact that he was
Yes.
almost granted a trademark, you know, there was nothing wrong with that.
Yes.
But, you know, that is just purely on the formalities. Is it something that is distinguishable? Is it assigned to a particular good? Does it describe the good or not? And has he, in terms of the filling out of whatever requisite forms, has he done that correctly? Have they done that correctly?
It was
And that
there.
done.
It was there to be trademarked if
Yeah.
needed be, and he could have done it and taken advantage of it.
Because it's not
Either way he wanted.
protected in any form otherwise.
Exactly.
And just going back to that point about the spiritual aspects and the deep-rooted feeling and why Trinidadians feel the way they do, Omari, is it widely understood what Juve actually means?
No. We have a wide participation in Juve, but that visceral, almost instinctive, emotive response comes from a place that many people don't understand. Even in the chat as we speak now, I'm seeing people referring to Juve as a French word.
French, yeah.
And that's such a misunderstanding because Juve was part of the language of Trinidad at the time, which is what we know modern day as Creole. In Trinidad, we refer to it as patois, but with a capital P. And that language, though it had French influence, was a language in and of itself that carried African dialects, that carried some of the Bhojpuri influences. And so it was a language of its own. Actually, it was the first real lingua franca of Trinidad and Tobago. So when people say that we borrow Juve, we take Juve from the French, so why we taking the French thing? It has nothing to do with that. The French equivalent will be jo over or Jouve, right? Or Jouve, how they pronounce it. Our Juve, when you examine it in the language of the time, in the language that we speak or that we spoke before English became dominant, almost by force, was this patois, the Creole. And the Creole is very different to French, right? You know, there's no denying that it is a French influenced language, but English is a Latin influenced language, right? But it stands on its own, right? And so we have to understand that. So this idea we have, right? I want to clear that up first of all. Secondly, right? There is something deeper in the Juve that people, when people reacted to this thing, they didn't even know. But Juve is so buried in the heart of the people from a ritual point of view, from a spiritual point of view, that people just, you see, we have a tendency to look at the end result, right? The end result, which is the festivity on the road on the day, and don't look at what went into that, what brought us to that point, and the fact that was a people defining themselves in a time when the powers that be didn't see them as people, right? And so they created this coping mechanism. They created this form of marionage, that allowed them to be. When you know what I would like to do, link it to the present time. When people have to deal with this pandemic and the inside and stuff, they start to talk about the mental health toll and all the things that happens when you can't move freely as you want, and so we start to see people trying to figure out ways to process this pandemic and deal with it, picking up new skill sets, doing a whole lot of things so that they can mentally push through. The pandemic would have been a joke to slavery, right? So what people would have had to do to both passively and actively cope, to rebel, to lift themselves up as human being was manifested as the Juve. And so the visceral reaction, like it or not, comes from that place. Yeah?
That's that's
Yeah, man.
That's some heavy stuff there to unpack there. To be honest with you, but that's really interesting. So Rebecca, do you feel it as well?
Yeah, because my word for the feeling I get when I think of Juvie and how everybody's reacting negatively, it's a personal celebration, a personal freedom that people feel attacked. As he said, it's a spiritual thing, so it is very personal to the being. So if you are disagreeing with someone or if you are agreeing with someone, you have to take any context of this is personal to them. So you can't get upset with how they feel. They, in their own right, as a Trinidadian, they have all rights to feel this way about the situation. And then again, the spelling of the word. If we all want to get technical up inside this place about again, I'll be a little devil's advocate here, right?
No, go
We want
on.
to talk about
It's
technical
just we in the living room. Go on.
with the Trinidad and Tobago term. I was about to say, oh gosh, forgive him now. He forgot to say Trinidad and Tobago. So if you want to get all technical, right? Let's look at the spelling of the rum. Juve being spelled hundreds of years ago, it has now transformed and evolved into J, Uve, right? So let's keep it as to what it has evolved into. Again, and isn't it they're investigating as to the application form that Michael Jordan would have filled out, right? Is it in the context of Juve, the French word, or is it the experience of mass? And from what we read in the articles, what he has inside the little box, he talks about the mass.
Mass, yes.
Pertaining into the mass section of it,
Talk about the festival, yeah.
right? So again, it is a personal thing that he did take and brand it. So my question to find a solution, I'm a person, I like to find solutions. So my question to find a solution is when a promoter, when I do concerts like open house, my first thing, guys, on my list is legal. Not even my budget is on my checklist. My budget comes second. My legal comes first. Cut people could tell you I live in cut. I used to ask cut many years, how come they don't have a section for promoters? Why they don't have a department that deal our listing where promoters can sign up? Because if we are the ones that doing the mass, that doing the events, that doing the concerts, that promoting this and promoting that and promoting creative intellectual ideas, why so and so didn't have that? And again, what came out of that, as you can see, is Derek Durag and Rome and Vishon and them doing this new Trinidad and Tobago promotions company, that now doing certain things to promote that side of it, right? So why it is that we need to find a thorn, a painful situation to find solutions. If that is how the world grows, let's all breathe in. Let's take a section. Let's take us a moment. Let's take a second. Everybody here, just breathe and really and truly thank God that this has arisen. Because guess what? A solution will come out of it. And let us all point to Dion and say, let's go, IP. Let's go, intellectual property. Let's go. If this is a route, this again a solution. If it is that IP office takes the stands and say, whatever it is we need to do to do this correct, it is going to take money. And we ain't got no money up inside these little office departments, the ministry and then the government, and they have the money. So
So let me
stop there. I don't
no,
want to get into that.
that's all right. There's so much to have a chat. And guys, if you don't know, Dion is an IP and she works in that area. But folks are saying that it was a place of that the uproar was coming from a place of ignorance. That's what I've seen going around in the chats, and I think someone even said it here as well. And we're going to get to the point as well as, does it make a difference is in the context of all the players, because it was not just Michael B. Jordan. He was the face, and I know that he was going to be face, just like others are the face for different things. I mean, I don't think that George Clooney actually is making Nespresso, but he's out there in, in the face of it. You know what I mean?
And I want to add that statement. Whoever said it was ignorant. Trust me, people, it ain't no ignorant. Michael B. Jordan not gonna do something attach his name to something without proper research, money spent behind finding out. I read online on the Newsday website, somebody brought up another situation. This is me being positive as well too, right? Trying to be a little hopeful on this. Somebody referenced when Mr. Belafonte in the 1950s from the States, when he started to sing calypso stuff. Y'all forgot, y'all remember that? He was doing calypso. The Calypsonians in Trinidad, everybody was upset. They even put the man's name in songs. Mr. Belafonte, you know what the hell is singing about? Blah, 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 blah. They bashed the man.
Yeah.
The man spread calypso music up to it. Tourists, so many tourists came to our island and blossomed our economy. Now we want to clap and praise. So I'll just throw that little smelling nice fish hook out into the ocean, and who wants to grab it?
Yes, do it again.
Oh, Mary, go.
All right, go on there, Omari. You want to take? I see you itching, Omari.
You see. I like to be clear about things, right? And we're mixing up so many issues here. So let me.
Yeah.
So there is two types of ownership we're trying to deal with here, right? There is a cultural ownership, right, that we're trying to wrestle with, but there's also a legal ownership. And at times we kind of mixing up the two.
I agree. We're going to unpack both tonight. Yeah.
Right. So it is a little confusing for people. Legally, if a thing could be trademarked, then you can trademark it. And that gives you a certain type of ownership, right? And with that comes a level of protection and the ability to exploit economically certain things and all of that. That's fine, right? When I heard it was on Sunday, I believe it first popped up. And when I saw it, I didn't say anything. Everybody, I got a couple of calls, some emails, and I told people personally, I am waiting for more information. Because the fact that Michael B. Jordan and his partners came up with this thing, that don't mean nothing yet. Let's see what it is about. Because I'm seeing Angostura bitters in the box. I'm seeing so I don't know yet. So let me see. And I waited. I'm waiting for to hear some statements from them, some statements from perhaps on the Trinidadian side, people who and after a while, I'm hearing nothing. So I'm getting a sense. I say, well, if this is to be beneficial to Trinidad, if there is some kind of partnership that is supposed to happen, as somebody who is trademarking this thing and people creating a thing, I would jump out and say, well, listen, this is not a corporate raid. This is us looking to work with you to promote XYZ. None of that was forthcoming. So then I started to consider, well, maybe that is not what this is about, right? And you see, we have to be careful of this narrative that we always accept that this person is going to come and pick up what we have and take it to the world and spread it, and then money is going to flow into our nation and Juve will finally be recognized, and nonsense, right? For me, that is nonsense simply because I have no problem with people earning money from culture, but that is not the point of culture, and that cannot be the point of departure. It can be something, it can be a benefit after we understand what we're dealing with and we recognize culture for what it is. That can be a benefit. But when you lead from the front that this is going to be such a boon and the tourists going to come, let me tell you something. The last thing I just be thinking about when I play in Juve is who tourists coming. Yeah? That have nothing to do with me because it is a living ritual. You know, let me tell you something.
Come on.
And this is what people are not seeing for those of us who see this thing. What if I was to realize, but wait now, communion wafers, nice. You know, if I and Ritz get together and make a communion wafer, we could make a money. Right?
Wow.
We could make a money. Ritz communion wafers, and we could get to promote it. We go get
No salt though.
the fellow who Passion of Christ, we will get him to promote it because everything is about money, right? It's about money, and the most important thing in the world is to make money off of cultural things. Well, in the Roman Catholic culture, that is a thing. So let me make some money off of that because the pinnacle of achievement in culture is commercialization. So let me don't hold back. And as a matter of fact, we go get barefoot to do a body of Christ wine. And let me run with it and sell it. So I'm saying that I have no problem with the commercialization of things, but it must not be the first thing. That must not lead my culture.
Yeah.
Yeah? It could be a benefit of it, but it must not lead my culture. So we must come out of this, oh my God, we missed such an opportunity to get 1,000 tourists to come down here and look at us.
Yeah.
We miss nothing, is what we miss.
Wow. No, that is fantastic. We got to value it first. You know, got to value it first. But there's something there that I want to go back on. And I think it was Becky that said, is it steel pan all over again? And then you talked about Harry Belafonte. And each one of those tend to have rage, settle. Outrage, settle. Is this going to be different?
Well, I think I like to look at a big point of view. So what I'm seeing happening here is who is really going to take ownership of it, right? The first thing. It's a cultural pride. We're talking about commercialism. We're talking about cultural ownership, legal ownership. Which comes first? Which comes second? Which comes third, fourth, fifth? The question is, who in Trinidad is going to take ownership of it? How do we take ownership of it? Is it IP's way? Who's going to fit that bill? Who's going to do we need to take ownership of it? Just to prevent. Now we have to move from being in a defensive mode into offensive mode. We have to be proactive. We have to be more proactive. We have to somewhere along the line, guys, we have to find a way to own it.
Yes.
And then when commercial comes, the legal ownership, everything comes, I could now jump to Canada and hear my thing and say, I'm a Trini. I love this. It's a pride. I have a pride on Trinidad soil while I'm enjoying it. And if I go somewhere else in the world, I am very well proud if I see it somewhere else.
Look at those. The word own it and protection are two of the words that we use here. We can't really. What does it mean to own and protect culture? Are we really talking about products that can come out of culture? Those are the things that you can sort of legally own and protect.
Yeah, but what you're hearing from Omari and myself and Dion as Trinis are very, you guys were saying it before, we are very passionate people. There's emotion, there's memories, there's
passion too.
It's a lot of our soul. Your soul is your emotions, your body, your spirit, your heart, everything is attached to our culture. So it's not just a product. It's how do you bottle all of that?
I agree with that, but how do you reconcile that? Something that
you have all these people here who.
What I mean by that is, it's something that's passionate, but still, in order to, because you Becky, you said the first thing you do when you go to set up your to promote is you deal with legal, which is a very head thing. This is. Yeah. What are the policies in place and how do I deal with that?
I'm trademarking my brand. I am owning my concert. I am owning open house. Nobody can take open house from me. Nobody can take my Yeah.
Yeah, Bridget.
But the challenge is always how do we reconcile the head things, the policies and the structures and ownership and the heart things.
Yeah.
The things about the passion and the culture and so on. How do we make sure there's a nice bridge between those two?
Dion, help me bridge the gap. Where possible. Where possible. Because look, the point. Go ahead, Dion.
No, you go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say like how we bridge the gap, and it's not easy. I don't think
Yeah.
it's not gonna be
No,
something
it's
easy.
not
It's not
easy.
simple, and
It's not
and
easy.
and I think the aim of the conversation here is not to convince somebody one way or the other, but in my opinion, is to say that all responses are relatively valid until some kind of solution at some point in time comes in. But it's not to say this person is right, this person is wrong for feeling the way how they feel. But as Philip said, how do we bridge it? How do we try to bridge that there, Dion?
Right. So as I see it, coming from the perspective of a creative myself, a performer, a Juve participator, as well as somebody who is deeply invested in understanding what our culture is and using our innate creativity as a means of wealth creation. Not the first point of it, but certainly it can be an end point, right? I see it as two things. One, we have to identify, as Trinidad and Tobago, even in a Caribbean context, what do we consider our culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because culture is a living, breathing thing, right? We can start doing something today that is culture 20 years from now. So understanding and identifying what our culture is an ongoing exercise. And for that, we need to think about our cultural confidence. So how do we feel about the things that we already have? What policies do we have in place for the things that we consider our culture already in terms of preserving it? So do we properly archive our culture? Do we properly educate our people about what our culture is at all levels? Is it ingrained in our educational system? How does it impact our socio and economic realities? Culture is all of that. And then out of culture, there are things that can be protected. So there is traditional knowledge and there is traditional cultural expression.
Mm-hmm.
There are some of those things that can be put into a tangible form, which the current existing IP systems require, that can then be protected. So, for instance, do we want to trademark the word carnival to speak about our festival? Do we want to trademark Husay, etc.? And use that, let's say, in some sort of promotional campaign for Trinidad and Tobago, in World Trade Fairs, etc. How do we want to go about it? There are products and services that come out of the cultural expressions that can legitimately be protected by existing IP systems, whether it be by patent, trademark, copyright, geographical indications, or industrial design. But I think it starts, as Omari was saying, with us appreciating actually and valuing, and in that valuation, being sure to archive and preserve what we
Okay.
consider to be our culture so that people can actually access it, learn about it,
Mm-hmm.
and in that way promote it. And then, cultural enterprises can come out of that,
So let
events, promoters, etc.
But even if the whole thing was trademarked for the brand of the rum, and it depend on the classes, and I saw that it was class 33, which is international, and then the ones that was fit in US and what's not, could it have damaged Trinidad and Tobago? Could Trinidad and Tobago still not use yet capitalize and perhaps not partner, but ride a wave, so to speak? Does it make a
Perhaps we
difference?
could have.
Does it make a difference that it would have been trademarked? And by the way, yes, we know that there were some parties involved that were Trinidadian as well, which I want to get to if that makes a difference in how people should have been reacting, because at the end of the day, Trinidadians are involved too.
Right. So, I mean, if the word Juve were trademarked in relation to a rum that's on the US market, that is in no way impacting Juve happening in Trinidad and Tobago. It doesn't impact Juve happening anywhere else in the Caribbean or wherever else there may be Caribbean style carnivals that have a Juve celebration. Um, what it would impact is somebody else being able to commercialize a rum within the same market, within the US market, under the same classes that trademark would have been registered in. There may have been some impact if the mark was also registered to be registered in other territories. Since trademark is one of those territorial IP rights. Okay. So, for instance, a way that we could possibly have been affected is the mark is registered in the US, and using the Madrid Protocol or otherwise, they also register a trademark for Juve in Trinidad and Tobago if for some reason that was successful and they were protected, let's say, in classes that might include whether festivals or even clothing and apparel, then that would affect someone being able to print a t-shirt that says Juve. Right?
Oh.
So it depends on the classes, and most times when people or organizations are registering trademarks, they don't just register it in the classes of which their primary business is, but they almost always include class 25, which is apparel, so t-shirts, caps, mugs, etc. So you have that your merch is associated with your mark, right? So I can't just go and print KFC on a t-shirt because KFC would be protected in class 25 as well as whatever food and beverage class it's protected in.
Okay, that's interesting.
Not interesting, that's very scary. I mean, if you listen to what he's really trying to say, it is very scary because now you can say it is justifiable for everyone to be upset, but then this uproar can also have a negative impact and a positive impact. A positive impact is us now internally protecting it going forward, making sure that these things in place, including the Trinidad parties, do the right thing to preserve what we already have as Juve in all of its aspects. Or negatively, this uproar, who's to say this negative uproar could now push them to file in Trinidad and take full ownership of all things Juve? That is very scary. And that's it. I'm just being the devil's advocate here and
No,
I want to come back to this word
again. I would like us. You see, one of the things that I struggle with understanding is this idea that he had a Trinidadian partner. So what does that mean? What does him having a Trinidadian partner with him? If he had Trinidad as a partner, then we could have been talking. But that he had a Trinidadian partner, what does that mean?
But why is that a bad thing though, to have a Trinidadian partner?
Well, all right, it's not a bad thing, but conversely, it is not necessarily a good thing. And one of the sayings that I always admired is that when the tree first saw the axe come into the forest, they didn't feel no how because the handle was wooden, and he said, "Hey, look what a wee boy." Yeah, and so again,
I
am not saying, and listen to me, I am not saying that what they did was bad. I'm not saying that the Trini who was with them do have a care for Trinidad. I'm not saying that their intentions were not good, right? Please understand that. What I am saying is, thus far, I ain't hear nothing to the contrary. I ain't hear them come out and say, well, all right, all your drum be gone, but this is what we was going on do. And I saw man have a bar name last lap, and it in my blood, so look what we was going on do. And this is very nothing so. So I'm saying you have an entire nation, well, not an entire nation, but enough noise from a nation to get your attention. Well, then come and deal with we.
Yeah.
Address me in a particular way. Let me see what so and this is what not I don't understand how people not seeing these things as red flags. Why that he have a Trinidad again? You have a Trinidadian partner. I wanted to have Trinidad as a partner, and then we could talk about more.
What would that look like? What would that look like?
And why did Trinidad not lean in and go and be a partner.
Hey, Trinidad and Tobago, all they get is
Oh, they get it right.
What was stopping Trinidad and Tobago from seizing the moment?
And leaning in.
The same attitude that say, oh God, what are you making noise for? Look, we miss our opportunity. That is what's stopping me. Because there's a lack of self-belief. We don't believe in what we have. We don't, and we don't. We always looking. We are looking outward for the savior to swing in, and he can't stand up. You understand? Full vibranium outfit and save we. It is, and again, please, because I don't want this to deteriorate into a for and against Michael B. Jordan. I am sure that he's probably a nice guy. I enjoy his acting. But as far as a Trinidadian and our culture is concerned, I haven't seen anything thus far that indicated that there would be a proper care given to what, and again, everybody, so far, and this is what frustrates me with these conversations, everything swings to commerce. And again, money makes the world go wrong. I can't have nothing against capitalism. But if what we are trying to capitalize on is birthed from something else, then we ought to look at it something else, examine it. You know what the Mighty Shadow, or he always told me and his sons a story about producers who used to produce them, right? They had this guy who produced them, arrangers and stuff. And he said, Shadow, you feel you're so big. I make you. He said, you make me? Well, you stupid. If you make me, you only make one of me. If I could have make me, I'd make 10. And then we'd have make all the money. So it is that kind of thinking I want to see. I don't want to Michael B. Jordan and them fine, but I want to see us examine ourselves, look at what we have that is of cultural value.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Put care and due diligence into that. And mind you, part of that care and due diligence will be protecting it, but it will also be examining how it serves us as a society, which for me is much more critical. The other thing will happen, because we put in the care and due diligence into it, so we will protect it. But we must understand what it means for us as a society. And as long as we're running to see how we could sell it, and how much tourists we could bring in, and how much, if that is your priority, then we might as well put on the coconut shirt, right? Put on the coconut shirt and go full on. What a nice girl like you doing all alone in a place like this, man. Right? Let me done.
You're right. You're so right, Omari. I mean, recently Trinidad and Tobago would have been featured on The Amazing Race, and forget the name of the band name now. But there was a band that was required to teach the contestants of The Amazing Race to play a song. And the producers required them to dress in Hawaiian shirts. And of course, Tobagonians took umbrage to that, because why are you trying to perpetuate, this myth of the Caribbeans, that we're running around in board shorts and Hawaiian shirts, you know what I mean? And for the sake of, okay, let's keep the production rolling, it happened, right? However, we do have to get to a point where we understand who we are, not just understand, but love and care about who we are, right? Really, really value what we bring to the world. We have put so much good into the world as Trinidad and Tobago, right? And for me, too many of us don't know about it.
But, this is incredible. Let me just say something a minute, right? This is incredible, because it will be useful to understand what is at the root of this confidence crisis in relation to our culture, because Trinidad and Tobago doesn't strike me as a nation that lacks confidence. I just don't. That's a conflict for me. So, what's at the root of this confidence crisis when it comes to our culture, Omari?
Listen, we have the colonization project is what you just described there. That is the whole purpose of colonization, to take away that confidence of our people so that they could continue serving the colonizer, right? And if that project was one that took 200-300 years to ingrain, it will take a little time to undo, right? What and we have to see these things plain as day. You know, we have to understand that people thinking that when we say ownership, we mean we don't want nobody else to participate in it. We don't want nobody. How could we not want anybody else to participate in it? It is not a matter of that, but we must be clear about what it is and what you are coming into. You're coming into my house, and if when you're coming into my house, you have to put your slippers by the door. Then that way you have to do, right? And you can't tell me you're not putting your slippers by the door because you're bringing our money, right? I'm bringing our money. We could, when my dirty shoes could walk in here, and I could pay 10,000 people to come and sanitize it when I done. That is fine, and it might be a thing, but for me, to enter here, you have to take off your shoes, and it's just that. And there will be a reasoning behind that. One of the things we have to, we please, we have to get away from is this idea that we need this external thing. People talking about putting Trinidad on the map. After what? After Hazley Crawford, after Atto Boland, after Janelle after Brian Lara, after Carnival, after Eric Williams, who and I'm talking about Eric Williams, the politician. I'm talking about Eric Williams, the scholar, right? After CLR James, after Stokely Carmichael, who gave the world Black is Beautiful and Black Power and all of them.
Yes,
Naipaul. How much more on the map we want to be? What we have to take to recognize.
What does on the map mean?
Right. What about Regina Capildeo, who part of whose mathematical formulations allowed them to leave this atmosphere and come back? What about these people? So we don't have we now going on the map because of what? A rum named Juve?
But I think so this is where it is for me. It's interesting you mentioned the Amazing Race there, because it's so much there to unpack. I was just listening because sometimes it's good to just listen, read some of the comments, see what people are talking about and that kind of stuff. For me, it's all about owning our own narrative. And this is where partnership comes in. And this is where I think, Omari, when you talk about partnership with Trinidad and Tobago is really important. And I see that, personally, I see this as something that it seems like Jamaica does very well when we look at in the Caribbean about owning their narrative and how it's portrayed out there in the world. Whether we agree with how it's done or not is another matter. But they seem to own that. And to me, it's all about owning our narrative. How do we want to be represented? Perhaps if we were part of that conversation with Amazing Race, Tobago would not have been represented in the way how it was represented. But it was. Why? Because there was no real partnership and we didn't have any input in the narrative in how we are portrayed. So I think sometimes, for me personally, or not enough. When I look at...
When I finish talking, Andrea, I just want to make a point.
Go ahead.
Well, okay, so I will just use what I know, how I move, right? As an example. I like when Dion said it's about pride. So my field, as you all know, is gospel music, events, coordination, that, Queen's Hall, John Thomas, Carnival, all of that. For the Gospel Music Awards in Trinidad and Tobago, that's great. I manage that, I produce that, no problem. Underneath a legal company that's registered with the ministry. Right. Because of the pride that I feel for our Christian gospel artists and the music. Marlin Awards, which is the Caribbean Gospel Music Awards in the Bahamas, reached out, and I am so proud. I'm now a judge, 6-7 years now, for the third time in the Bahamas. Right. But I am now joining that committee as a Trinidad and Tobago representative of I am proud to represent Trinidad and Tobago on an international scale. Mary, you know more into my plan of what I'm doing coming up, right? But I'll share a little bit on it. I now want to take that same feeling of pride I feel for our music in Trinidad, and I am telling you, I'm going to take that to GMA, Dove Awards, Stella Awards, and this is
Okay.
discussions, and I've been having discussions with Jackie Patillo, the president, Justin Fratt, who's the marketing manager at GME, for years, because I'm so proud. I want to have a category in their award show for Caribbean music. I want to have a category in because I'm so proud of our Caribbean music. I'm so proud that I will push beyond the box mentality that we have in Trinidad. Yes, we don't like to share. Why you don't like to share? But if you want, because you're proud, take that pride, but do it in the right way. Do it legally, protect it first. Do it through the right channels, through a proper registered business under a ministry or government, and then take it outdoors. Then carry it overseas. That's
I
just that's just
no,
one framework that we could look at.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'm with you
yeah.
there. And coming back to your question as well, Mar, about Trinidadians, not being necessarily shy. So you're wondering where is this lack of cultural
Yes.
confidence or whatever that you're seeing. I don't think there's a lack of confidence amongst ourselves, amongst the region. But there's still a barrier there when we start to go outside where we look for this validation. And unfortunately, sometimes we believe that, we don't have real skin in the game to effect whatever it is we want to effect. So therefore, we are the lesser player or the lesser partner. I think it's a Caribbean white thing. I don't think it's not a Trinidadian thing by any means. As I say, we talking about this Trinidad issue, but we also looking at it from a regional perspective. And and you see it in Barbados, you see it in the OCS. Whenever you're dealing with an entity or something that's beyond our shores, we take up a slightly different position
Yeah.
than we take when we're dealing with each other.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the issues there. But for me, when I look at this issue, did Trinidad miss an opportunity? Perhaps, don't know. Whatever opportunity is to whoever is saying that Trinidad missed an opportunity, don't know. But to me, it has to be done the right way that we as a people. When I say we, I'm not a Trinidadian, a Trimbagonian, if I use the right word there, a Trimbagonian. But when I say we, I know I'm talking about the whole region. We need to be
Yes.
part of the conversation to control our narrative, not someone
I
taking
agree with you.
ourselves, doing whatever they want to do, commercializing it, whatever that looks like, exploiting it, however that looks like, and we taking a backseat and feeling happy that our name is being mentioned. It's about we got to be able to control our narrative. For me, when I look at it,
Yeah, but I like
I
how Mari said. Sorry, yeah. I like how Mari said. The issue is not a Trinidad. The issue is it a Trinidadian? Why couldn't it be Trinidad and Tobago? Again, if we're dealing with it from a Trinidad and Tobago perspective, the rep has to be Trinidad and Tobago in a legally binding manner. Meaning, again, do it under the right channels, follow protocol, and do it that way. Me, Becky, I cannot just walk into Nashville and want to represent Trinidad and Tobago as Rebecca Fuentes. I can't. I have to have approval from my country to take this music and take it overseas. There's a right way to do it. Dion, everything is Dion. Today's thing, Dion. Let me how are we doing this legally?
But isn't that a bit
well,
imbalanced? Isn't that a bit
sorry.
imbalanced if you have a private collective, a
I,
private quorum partnering with?
it's for me. It's not even about just the government sanctioning you first, right? My thing is that let's face it, entrepreneurs who are private are usually the most dynamic. They get stuff done. I have no problem with private entrepreneurs, but like Rebecca was saying, even you in your private capacity can then reach out for maybe a public-private partnership, could then reach out for a larger thing in the game. So you don't necessarily need to say, well, all right, government, I'm going to do this, so do I have your permission? You go, you do your thing as a thing, and then you approach them, look, this is the proposal, these are the parties that I have interest in, this is what is possible, so. All those things are possible. But again, when we do not treat with care, right? Tony Hall, as Dion mentioned, Tony Hall has dissected, taken apart, put back together the Juve in such a way that we can use it society-wide to treat with everything from socio-political issues to all in every way. And he did it in such a creative way, right? Those are the kind of things that we need in the schools. We need people to understand Tony Hall's Juve
Judaism.
the Juve theory or Juve theater practice or something like that. I forget the name right now, but his idea is that there are certain archetypes in Trinidad and in all societies, and you can link them. You can link them to the characters that you may see in mass, and then there are certain kind of attitudes and behaviors you put into them. It is an instructive way to teach from children, because you could say, listen, these are the aspects of a midnight robber that you must come to recognize. And the midnight robber is the man who does do this. I am the agent of Dead Valley. And you can then extrapolate from that. You can say, this is what a stick man does do, and show them the discipline of the stick man. You could show them so even from the most using our culture in that kind of way. And then once we have that understanding, and these things can happen simultaneously. I'm not saying do this first and then commercialize, but I'm saying if we fail to do this, if we fail to do this, we will always be faced with what we are facing, because we do not understand ourselves. Please.
Yes.
Agreed. And I actually had the honor of going through that process during while preparing for a Tricanal show, right? That would have been the first Tricanal show that would have been mounted at Queen's Hall in 2007. And we went through an intensive process where I was identified as a dramatist, no surprise. Dramat with some slight damblering. But I think going through that process is one of the reasons why when I saw this thing that was happening, I was like, oh no, you need to pause, right? No, not just so. Because really it does help you to understand more deeply and identify with where you are, as opposed to, maybe one of those other type of psychometric tests that you would do that would tell you, this, that, whatever. But it's something that you can identify with that is intrinsic to where you come from. And the fact is that he has used it internationally, and sad to say, our, colonial curse, it's been more recognized, let's say in Trinity University in Connecticut than it has been in QRCCIC Bishop St. Joseph Convent.
And the amazing thing is that we do have archives of it. We have Timothy Mora's company, Visual Arts and Production, who has been doing, who have coverage of it from TTT old days, from TTT TV station back in the old days. His YouTube channel has black and white video footage of our carnival seasons, our entire culture, our island, these old places. So I found this past week a lot of the, I don't want to say the word, but like the younger generation had no clue about why everybody was so upset. And I'm like, really, again, it really is a
disconnect there.
The cultural education, yes, the education of our culture really needs to be a lot boost up. You know?
And listen to me. I don't put that on young people. I put that on us.
Yeah.
Yes.
Of course, we have to say it.
So my point is simply this: we must recognize the value in certain things. I often tell people, Juve morning, in the particular band I play with, I don't think, and you know how women dress for Juve, I don't think a woman does feel any safer than in that moment, surrounded by these men who they feel safe with, who they know they could express themselves with. And there is something in that moment in Juve that I think could be examined, looked at, taken apart and perhaps distilled in a way that we could carry it out to a wider society where where women could feel protected by men no matter what they have on or don't have on, right? Which is something in that particular band. I'm telling you, there are usually a couple of women who are topless and nobody interferes with them. So there's something there, some agreement that happens through the Juve. I don't know what it is. That is not my area of expertise in terms of psychology and whatever, but I'm saying there's something that we can examine from all angles, that perhaps we can then look at it and say, all right, what in this moment creates this idea that men could see that and not think, hey, what she gets, she look for, but think rather we must protect her at all costs. What it is in that moment, and this is how we have to use our culture, right? And this is what I am particularly interested in. I like romantic, but not so much, right? I want to see culture dealt with, and then while that happening, we could be commercializing it too, right? And we could be making our money. But again, my point will always be making our money cannot be the be all and end all for my culture.
It can't be the stopping point. It cannot be the stopping point.
So Mari, it seems as though there's a lot of, and Becky and Dion as well. It seems as though the building blocks are there. You know, you talked about the archive, you talk about the potential to extrapolate some things that are happening in a Caribbean context and look at them in different societies and so on. What's missing? Is it just the scale, the connections? What is missing to properly exploit Trinidad and Tobago's culture or Caribbean culture in a more sustainable manner?
I think we need to get to that tipping point. I think we need to arrive at critical mass in terms of the belief in ourselves. There are pockets of society within the region that believe in what we stand for, believe in the fact that, as John and Bigfoot said in the chat, that we can fix ourselves, that we have the resources within ourselves.
Absolutely.
Right? But I don't think we've reached critical mass. And perhaps more critically, or perhaps as a result of not reaching critical mass on the ground level in terms of, citizenry, the willingness of our government regionally, or understanding or belief again, is not necessarily there. So for instance, if we speak about, diversifying the economy, away from whether it's tourism, away from oil and gas or whatever it is, by using our creative industries, for instance, but we don't actually make the investments that are necessary. We don't make the investments into our tourism products, etc. Whatever it is we're saying we're diversifying using, then we really just talking the talk. We're not actually walking the walk.
So do you feel as though we're stagnant?
There's not a political will because they don't really believe.
Are we currently stagnant, or are we moving towards that tipping point, that critical mass? Is it headed there, or?
I think we're moving, or else, I am here for nothing unless, all the work that Omari is doing at TV is for naught. All that Rebecca is doing is for naught. I think we're moving.
In
another time, we would not have had the outcry. We would have said, oh gosh, in terms of how can he take it? If the outcry would have been, yes, please, here, go. Like, let's look into the circle of life, right? So I think we're getting there. We're not there yet, but we will continue to do what we have to do to make sure we get there.
I think, in my opinion, I think the mass is there, but we don't recognize it because we still thinking, everyone is thinking
everyone for yourself. Yep.
The answer to everything that we're talking about lies, in my opinion, in CARICOM doing what they say they're set up to do.
Okay.
In the absence of that, this struggle will continue for decades to come, in my opinion. Unless, of course, you might be, a Jamaica that had do some stuff and gone off on their own slightly. I don't know if they're considered themselves part of CARICOM anymore. But when we're thinking about it in the Eastern Caribbean and what's not, the answer lies in a greater union. But of course, union talk don't win local elections. So that's the hard thing that would always make it hard to happen, right? But until we take this conversation regional regarding IP understanding culture, coming together, stop competing on the same landscape against each other. I better than you, did better than do, da 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 da. We can't even get a bubble together during a pandemic to work. And we got nearly 20 million people in the English speaking and the French and Spanish speaking Caribbean. And we can't even get that to work. This is where the issue lies to me. Until this conversation, and we start to point now regionally, until this conversation comes out of the local dialogue and become a regional dialogue of substance and willingness, political will. I think you mentioned Rebecca as well. We'll be here. There'll be other MJBs doing similar things, doing similar things down the road.
I agree with you, Andre. Go on, Mary.
I'm an eternal optimist, right? So I always look at things like this. Because we are individuals in a particular time in history, it looks like nothing is happening. But were we to take a step back and look at the greater history of the region, we will see that progress is being made.
Yeah.
Also, do not discount the ability of a pebble to make a landslide. And so that this discussion that is happening between Trinbagonians and you all in the UK who are of Caribbean descent is something that is already indicating that there is a will among the people, if not the leadership.
Yes.
Right? And so we have to hold on to things like that when we recognize. And again, I always make the point that Trinidad is almost is to be Trinidadian is to be Vinci, is to be Grenadian, is to be Bajan. To be, you understand? We in Trinidad, if you tell everybody go back to the island that the grandparents, the great-grandparents, the great-great-grandparents come from, Trinidad could possibly be empty. Because even
Barbados might not got the land.
Even as far back as the settler population, right? In 1790, whatever, it was an invitation for not just the planters in the French colonies, but also for their enslaved and the free coloreds, as they used to call them, to come to Trinidad. And so the first big population burst that had in Trinidad was from these Francophone islands. And then over in more recent history, you had Barbados, you had St. Vincent. So just the idea that we are having this discussion, just the idea of what Trinidad is and Tobago is made of, there's a possibility for this kind of regional coming together, even outside. And the ideal, of course, is that our leadership thing. But Black Stalin famously said that look how long we try with Carifta, we try with this, we try with all kind of things. We come and we try with CARICOM, but Rastafari is spreading. So it must be something them Rastas on that the politicians don't know, right?
True.
That may not be the solution, but I'm saying our artist always points to us in so many ways. What he's saying is that the people have been united. So even if on the higher level we have some way to go, we have to continue having these discussions in fora like this.
But you see, I don't dispute that the people are the ones who are driving this thing, or Mary, because I think, over the course of the living room, we have seen there's great desire from the people. The problem here is almost every Caribbean country starts over every 5 years. And you cannot achieve success that way. You cannot get to critical mass, strategic, big thinking if every time you have an election as a nation, you're starting over. And that is part of the problem. So we need a different type of politics, I think, in order to help shape this whole area of culture. I see you nodding there. We are quite a lot there, Becky.
I'm good. No, I'm just agreeing. I'm agreeing.
I was gonna pick up on something what Mary said there, because you're talking about, the thing of having this conversation with us guys here in the UK. I do think the diaspora, the Caribbean people in the UK and other parts is both a strength and a threat. And why I say that is this. I think sometimes within let's say the people who've left the Caribbean and live in other places, you tend to get culture developing in a different way. So if you go to carnivals here in the UK, it's a very different type of music, a very different sentiment, a very different type of connection. You know, a lot of things. It doesn't. There's something about it that feels. For a person like me, born in the Caribbean and raised in the Caribbean, you know, there's something about it that's strange. I'll give you another example. There's a comedy here in the UK called Famalam. I don't know if you've heard about it in the Caribbean, but it's essentially produced and created by a collective of Africans and Caribbean, probably second, third generation African and Caribbean people. They create this comedy, and quite a bit of it is sort of poking fun at their concept of what a Caribbean person or African or West Indian behaves like. And if you look at the way it's done, it is quite offensive to who we are now. They use a lot of old tropes and so on that just don't fit our current narrative. So their series 3 came out, and they did this sort of sketch of Jamaicans, and it was this really old-fashioned sort of talk and the way they were engaging with women and couldn't spell, that sort of stuff. And the Jamaicans went crazy on social media. And you know what the producers said? But it's funny. is what they said, and that's what I mean is sort of the strength and the danger of when you have a diaspora that starts to become disconnected from the origins of the energy of that culture.
Interesting.
My point to that will be also, I'm sure the creators of that and the producers of that will also say, we're making money. And people who didn't know about Jamaica and the Caribbean now know because it's on TV. Right? Yeah. So don't correlate them too hard because it might be a missed opportunity.
Oh, yeah. You like a fight, you know. You like a fight.
I will let you watch the episode and you tell me if it's a missed opportunity or not.
But what can is there anything that we talk about region, we take it to region now. From this situation that's just happened, moving past it for a second, is there anything the region should learn as we start to bring it home? Dion?
I think one, we need to learn what we've been saying, value what you have. Know what you have so you can value what you have. Where you can protect, whether by policy or whether through IP systems, do protect, because protection helps to preserve. Communicate what you have, educate, your society, educate, the younger people coming up, continue with the traditions that you have because there's value in it, obviously. And, to support the point that you were making, definitely understand the value that we are stronger together. So even if we are looking to commercialize at the end point something that we consider cultural, a Caribbean market is way larger than any individual island's market would be.
And if you're truly diaspora in there, well then you're going
there you go. Right?
True.
That's what I
guess what I would love to see, me personally, is the same way that New Orleans is known for their Mardi Gras, and nobody could touch that Mardi Gras term anywhere in the world. That is what I would love to see. But then again, within Mardi Gras, they have something called Jazz Festival. And within the museum in New Orleans, they have archives, history, documents, displays of the people who created and invented jazz improvisation, because the mayor and the ministers and the government officials made it very clear that this is ours. We're going to put this out on display. This is known public, and it's going to be known worldwide. Don't mess with our jazz. Don't mess with our Mardi Gras. But then in Trinidad, we have festivals called Jazz Fest, which again is different. So, you know, around the world, you have jazz festivals going on, but they cannot do it the way that New Orleans can do it. Again, I like when Dion said that. That's because there's trademarks for territories. So as a CARICOM territory, trademark will definitely, I mean, that's the goal, to trademark it all.
Yeah.
I guess some people would ask what can you trademark and what can't you trademark? I suppose that's part of the conversation there at some point in time as well. And I'll be confessed, I don't know.
I told y'all I'll be the red devil in this. Like, I want everything. I want to be the typical city. You want to trademark everything?
You want it? So Barbados, so trademark.
From this glass that says made in Trinidad and Tobago, I want to trademark this. I must not see the glass anywhere in the U.S. You know?
Nice.
So we should be trademarking Kadumans and Kropova and John Canoe and all these kind of things. Then
And again, trade. I would want to say that trademark is only one form of IP, right?
Yes.
So some of those things may fall under different areas that it could still be protected, right? Particularly what you call it, the traditional knowledge, traditional
cultural expression.
Yeah.
Those kind of things, right? So they might have some space for that there and that kind of stuff. So I mean, again, like I said, we have a duty of care to our culture, and what comes with that duty of care, of course, is protection. What comes with that duty of care is understanding. What comes with that duty of care is, remember, although these things are, we say, traditions, but one of the things I have found with Caribbean culture is that it is living. And sometimes when we think traditions, we think that it's something frozen in time.
Yeah.
So this is something that is living, and so therefore we should examine how we can use it in our lives, how it can instruct us, how it can inform us, how it can help us move forward as a people. That new politics, perhaps, is why many may not be able to see it. It is because that we are not tuning in to that which is truest to us. And if we examine a lot of the cultural forms, even in how we celebrate everything from maybe our carnivals, if we look at how that is governed, where it came from, something inside of there will put on a light. And as long as we continue to ignore it, or as long as we only see the value in commerce, and the reason why I'm stressing that, please only understand, I have no problem making money. Money is good, right? But I want to stress that we cannot start off there, particularly where culture is concerned, right? So I want us to know that care, if we take that care and we understand, things will start to fall in place in an unbelievable way.
Yeah,
that's strong.
Agreed. And I just wanted to add that in when we think about the forms of IP, when we talk in trademark, we're talking a mark that is used in the course of trade. So we're definitely talking about commerce there, right? And a trademark, its life is 10 years, renewable infinitely, but it's 10 years initially. Copyright, music. Most of our regions is the life of the author, the owner, and plus 50 years, 70 years in some territories, 99 years, 90 years in Jamaica because of Bob Marley and that catalogue of music, understanding the value that would bring to them. So we do need to see, and then there's the geographical indications, etc. What form of IP, if it can, will be used to formally protect our traditional knowledge or traditional cultural expressions? What form of IP best suits us? And if there are gaps that can't be captured by the existing forms of IP, do we now need to develop new branches of law, which is called sui generis law? So a specific, basically a bespoke law for that particular situation that you're treating with. Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot. It's not a plaster for every store. Yeah, well, trademark it. No, that's not what we're saying.
Okay.
Yeah?
And is there anything you can tell us around the work you've done protecting the intangibles, Dion, in terms of work of mass?
Well, I didn't particularly put any work into that amendment of the Copyright Act, which introduced works of mass as a protected form of protected copyright product in Trinidad and Tobago, worldwide. Copyright is one of those, is the IP system that is recognized worldwide. The other forms, patents, geographical indications, trademarks, industrial designs, they are all territorial, right? And those are known as the industrial property, right? But copyright is worldwide. So what a work of mass is, it's basically the combination of the aesthetic or the adornment. So for instance, a carnival costume, the midnight rubber mask costume, the oratory speech, the form of dance, and any music that accompanies it. So so when we look at it in that way, our traditional mask, for instance, so our Peregrine, our midnight rubber, Dame Lorraine, all those carnival archetypes are actually protected via copyright as works of mass.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
That's good.
It's a good model there.
Good model. Someone asked about wines in France, if they trademark, or if you can't call something
that is a what you call a geographical
indication.
So you can have sparkling wine from anywhere, but only
you can't call it champagne.
No, it has to be from the region of Champagne.
Champagne.
To be called
champagne.
So that is a form of IPS, but it's what do you call it, Dion? A geographical market.
A geographical indication. Geographical indication. And we've just recently had one for cocoa, Trinitario cocoa, in Trinidad and Tobago. So that's one GI that I can speak to that we have.
Interesting.
What is that bringing?
No, that's an interesting conversation. I really enjoy the conversation, because for me, when we talk about having it, as I say, it wasn't a case of necessarily saying someone is right, someone is wrong, but it's just simply understanding where people were coming from, and not necessarily dismissing people who had an issue with what was happening as ignorant, so to speak. So I think we had that conversation, so that was good. Anything, Mark?
No, I think it's important that we acknowledge our value. We're talking about value and protecting and values first deliberately, because we still have a long, long way to go, I feel, in embedding what our value around these intangible things need to look like, and how we need to own them and be confident about them. Go anywhere in the world and be proud to be West Indian, and be proud to sell what we have, because they are strong.
And defend it as well.
Absolutely.
I have no problem with us seeing something, and I know, some might say, oh, but we didn't have the full extent of the understanding of whatever it is that was going on. To me, that's neither here nor there regarding the initial response, because you initially responded to what you see, what was coming at you. Now, to your point, Omari, there was every chance to say, oh, no, hold on, let me explain what we're doing, so that you can
I was now going to ask Omari, do you think that we will get any kind of feedback or report or communication from them? Do you?
No, but they're done. They're changing the name and they're going on with the business.
At this stage, but remember, they're changing the name. But as you would have mentioned off air, it does not necessarily mean that they're giving up on trying to get a trademark.
Exactly.
Right? So they may very well change the name and still try to get you with trademark. So that is also a possibility. Again, all things begin with a discussion. And so far, I've heard no discussion. I've heard no explanation. I for one, if I had a plan, I was rushing out and I'd say, hold up. All you don't get vexed with me, this is the plan we have. You see, next year, I don't talk to XYZ. We have a thing. When we pushing it out, we're looking for how much ever the leading so to come through. We think we send an invitation to all you. So thing. I was looking for, and then we're gonna say, hey, yes, boy, them fellas, and I'm looking to talk. But I ain't hear nothing.
But this is your fault. You keep too much noise. You humbug the people. You call them names and all kinds of things. So it's your fault. You're missing opportunity. You keep too much noise.
I was now going to ask Dion. Dion, how much for application form for trademark? Let me put up some money here. And let me trademark. Wait. Let me call Minister Randall Mitchell of Paris and be like, what you want to always put your name on this form here? What you always want to put on this form here? And let me just solve this thing one time.
Yes.
How easy it is.
guys.
It is easy. It is an easy process.
Indeed. Because my thing was that there was time given that you could clear the air on something, right? So my thing is that Trinidadians and whoever across the region that might have gone up in arms based on what they saw, in my opinion, have nothing to apologize for or nothing to feel badly for. That's my opinion. Because the opportunity was there to say, hold on, before you go too far, this is what's really happening. And that could have been done from all the parties involved. I say, I am putting Michael B. Jordan as the only person because he had people he was working with, some of whom were Trinidadians as well. So there was all opportunity, but that wasn't done. Instead, you cut and run. Why? Probably to protect his brand more than anything else. And maybe because, too, he didn't want Nicki Minaj's barbs chirping on and all the different things, too, because I don't underestimate what that whisper from her did, too. As well. So that's the thing.
Listen, I am tonight when I pull my covers over, I'm going to sleep very comfortably, thinking about that missed opportunity. You think about me 1 minute, right? See all that missed opportunity talk. I go to that. You miss. I don't listen. But anyway, to try to be positive about this thing. The conversations have started. All eyes are now focused. Perhaps this is the wake-up call that the Caribbean needs. Perhaps we can now use this as the springboard to start to look at our things, see all the various protections to be had, to look at ourselves, to understand who we are. And if nothing else comes out of this, that would, those ideas will be great. And that is an opportunity that should not be missed. Yeah.
Well said. I agree with that. That's definitely an opportunity that should not be missed. But look, I really enjoyed this conversation, and I know sometimes for some it might have been a hard conversation to have because maybe you're not agreeing with everything that everyone is saying, but that's okay. That's what conversation is about. You're never going to agree with everybody, and everybody's not going to agree with the other person and whatnot. And the aim for me wasn't necessarily to change anybody's mind. It was just to have the open conversation, because sometimes we can get caught up in saying, oh no, you're wrong for thinking this. No, you're not necessarily wrong. You think it because of a reason. Now have a conversation about it. And that's the whole aim of why we were here today. Phil, final words before we...
No, yeah, it took a lot. It took a lot from this conversation, a lot to process. Because coming into it, I wasn't sure. This sounded a little bit dry, this topic, to be honest.
Dry?
Dry, man. Just a bunch of... Like I saw Dion's handle is legalese and love. I like to talk a bit more about love than all the legalese stuff. but yeah,
love man, no.
Yeah, man. But this was a good conversation. Very useful. Very useful. There's a lot we can take from this.
Legalese and love.
I love that.
What I miss? We coming to the UK for a tour? What are we doing?
Yeah, eventually, you come in. But for me also, it's just all about, as we said before too, it's all about the Caribbean valuing what we have, valuing us, valuing ourselves, recognizing that we can put ourselves on the map, not someone necessarily else someone might help in some form or fashion, but it needs to be a true partnership, not necessarily someone looking to exploit us for exploiting us sake. And I use exploit there in a negative word because exploit don't necessarily always have to be negative. You can exploit something for mutual benefit as well. But we just need to make sure, in my opinion, that we control our narrative. So if our name is being used, our vibe is being used, our culture is being used, in my opinion, you should be partnering with us as entities so we control that narrative about us, and it's not somebody else controlling it at all. And from a regional perspective, to me, I hope this is a wake-up call right across the region that we need to get, We need to get our house in order regarding some of this stuff, and do it from a regional perspective. Because if everybody, Barbados is only what 380,000 people. We can't do this thing on our own. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You go across the OCS, you're talking less than 150,000 people each in some country. They can't do this thing on their own, but together, that's how we gotta approach this thing if we're gonna really affect change. That's the way how I see it.
Well, look, guys in the audience, let's just remind you of where you can go and follow our guests across social media. Dion, first of all. Rebecca. And of course, Omari, the man himself.
You colonize your mind.
Yeah, man.
Saga boy. Saga boy.
Saga boy.
Indeed.
Man.
Well, guys, guys in the audience, just thank our guests for being part of the show today, as we always do. Just show them some love, whether you agree with them or not. We having conversation. That's how we do it. We know that. So just thank the guys for coming in, guys. We really want to thank you guys for coming in, Dion, Rebecca, Omari. It's been a pleasure having you guys in the living room today. It's amazing.
Thank you for having us.
Come back again.
Good definitely we gotta come back again, because we gotta see where this year gonna end,
Well, I mean, borders are opening up, so we might see you in a few months.
Indeed.
You need to get out of the box.
Indeed. But thanks, guys. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Bye.
Thanks for having us. Everyone stay blessed.
Indeed. Good conversation, guys. I enjoyed that.
Yeah. Even though Robbie thought it was going to be dry, but hey.
But I don't understand.
Nah, man. I about all the IP, trademark, copyright. It's more fast for me, man.
Boy, that does make
I just
the
want
world
to
go
write
round.
music.
Well, but therefore you should be about IP and trademark and everything too.
But I think this is always the challenge. 'Cause I always say that about myself. I like to create. I like to write, but I don't.
You want to do it for the love.
But I think that's where I need partnership. Right? I need partnership with somebody who is more interested in shaping and connecting and sort of protecting stuff. Because a personality of mine would just create and write and just give it away and say, "Wait, on the radio, people loving it, people gaining from it." But if you have a business mind together with you who can protect it, I think that's missing from the bigger conversation, because we are such small territories. You have a lot of people who are passionate, right, and who are creative, but you don't have sufficient people who say, okay, now that we have this energy, what do we do with it to ensure that we can get more out of it and that people can get returns from it?
And that is where I see a lot of the failure in our education system over the decades. We spent too much time preparing people to work in tourism and all that thing, man. I doubt there's a region in the world that has the mass of creatives that we have in the Caribbean. But what are we preparing them for? What is the pathway for them? It feels as though that conversation about the business side, the partnerships, is not coming together well enough. And I think somebody said in the comments, we don't want to be here in 10 years' time.
I didn't throw in my water, by the way. So
we don't want to be here in 10 years' time.
This conversation is so thing, I always come back to I think he was Beijing. The Beijing guy who was there at the beginning of the internet.
Oh, yeah.
When Alta Vista, one of those search engines, were coming out, and he wrote a good set of the code of it and did not do whatever. For whatever reason. But when you hear him tell a story, he didn't do it for all of that economic stuff. He did it for the love and for the interests and that kind of stuff. But somebody else out there...
He did it as research.
Yeah, but there's a lot of stuff you could do as research and still protect it.
Exactly, and that's where he didn't. We didn't have the sort of entrepreneurial background.
Exactly,
and
right
further.
now, somebody and many people out there right now making billions upon billions upon billions of dollars off of work that he did and contributed to. And this is where we got it. I always come back to that story in my mind.
Yeah.
I always come back to that story in my mind because that's us. We do it for the research, the fun, the joy, the altruistic meaning of it all, the culture, the tradition.
Yeah.
But we don't see the other part of it until someone else come and do something with it. You know what I mean? And that's as a West Indian. So, but we got to get past that and change that. We definitely got to change that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Indeed. But hey, guys, look. Thank you guys for joining us. Again, let me just put this here. A new episode of that is out. Go have a look. Kind of interesting. I think kind of funny, but I might say so. I might be a bit biased.
Bit dry.
Oh, Philip might think it's a bit dry. Hey, but go have a look at that. See what's been going on in the Caribbean over the last few weeks. With a bit of a funny twist as well. That's on our page as well. If this is your first time and you've seen us ever, hit follow us on Facebook, on YouTube, wherever it is as well, and just come be part of the conversation and enjoy the content. There's a whole heap of stuff there that you guys can have a look at as well. It has been fantastic being with you guys this afternoon. It's been a good conversation, but we're gonna get out of here. So until next time.
Get some dry gin now.
Big frightened man. I watched the episode. It was funny.